Detachment is the key to peace and joy. Imagine this. You're sitting on a park bench watching people pass by. Some are hurried, juggling coffee cups and phones, while others stroll leisurely, soaking in the moment. A child laughs as they chase a butterfly, completely absorbed in the now. And then there's you, thinking about a text you sent earlier, replaying that awkward conversation from last week, or worrying about an outcome you can't control. Sound familiar? It's easy to get caught in life's web of expectations. But what if I told you there's a way to cut those threads and truly live in the present? That's the power of detachment. Before we get started, what's up? My name's Nick Jackson, and my channel is here to give you insights on philosophy, psychology, conspiracy, and spirituality. If any of those things are interesting to you, subscribe to my channel and make sure you like the video. If you have a thought on anything from the video, start a convo in the comments down below. Now let's dive into this idea of detachment and explore how mastering it can change your mindset, reduce stress, and open the door to a more fulfilling life. Detachment is not about apathy or disengagement, it's about freedom. It's about letting go of the desperation that keeps us clinging to outcomes, people, or expectations. As the great philosopher Lao Tzu once said, by letting it go, it all gets done. The world is won by those who let it go. Detachment allows you to move through life without being weighed down by the need for control or validation. It is the art of giving and receiving love without conditions, of setting boundaries without guilt, and living without constantly needing things to go your way. Here's a personal story. A few years ago, I found myself obsessed with a job opportunity. I did everything to make sure I'd land it, revised my resume 100 times, rehearsed my interviews, and even visualized myself in the role every night. But the more I clung to the idea of getting that job, the more anxious and stressed I became. When I didn't get it, I felt crushed, like I'd failed. It wasn't until I learned to detach from the outcome that I realized the rejection wasn't personal, it was redirection. A better opportunity came along, but only after I stopped holding on to the desperation of that first job. Psychology backs this up. Studies show that people who practice detachment through mindfulness and meditation experience lower stress levels and better emotional resilience. According to a study published in Frontiers in Psychology, mindfulness practices like meditation can reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, by up to 20%. Detachment isn't about giving up, it's about giving space. When you release the need to control everything, you make room for life to flow naturally. Now let's talk about love. True love thrives in detachment. This doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop controlling. Rumi, the great Sufi poet, wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And don't worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" When you detach from the need to control how love is given or received, you allow it to exist in its purest form, unconditional and free. Detachment also means setting boundaries. Think of boundaries like a fence, not to keep people out, but to protect what's valuable within. Without boundaries, we let other people's emotions, expectations, or even drama invade our mental space. How often do we find ourselves more invested in celebrity lives than our own? Why do we let the news, social media, or someone else's opinion dictate how we feel? True detachment is becoming unbothered. Not in a cold way, but in a way that preserves your peace. Spirituality teaches us a lot about detachment. The Bhagavad Gita says, "You have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work." This means you should focus on your actions, not the results. When you let go of expectations, you align yourself with the flow of the universe. Imagine a river. It doesn't fight the rocks in its path, it flows around them. Detachment allows you to become like that river, adapting and thriving without resistance. There's a conspiracy hidden in plain sight that's worth mentioning. Society profits on your attachment. Advertisers, media companies, and even social platforms feed on your need for validation and control. They sell you the illusion that happiness is found in the next purchase, the next like, or the next promotion. But here's the truth. Happiness isn't the chase, it's the release. By detaching from these external traps, you reclaim your power. A great example of this is meditation. Meditation is the ultimate practice of detachment. By focusing on your breath, you let go of intrusive thoughts and connect with the present moment. Neuroscientists have found that even 10 minutes of meditation a day can rewire your brain, strengthening the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation. With consistent practice, meditation can help you detach from the chaos of daily life and find peace in simplicity. Let me share another story. A close friend of mine was constantly stressed about their relationship. They'd overthink every text, worry about every conversation, and feel devastated by the slightest conflict. One day, they decided to try a new approach. They stopped expecting their partner to be perfect, stopped trying to read into every action, and instead focused on being present in the relationship. They detached from the need for constant reassurance and discovered something amazing. Their relationship flourished. Detachment didn't mean that they cared less, it meant that they loved more freely. Imagine this. A young monk named Tenzin was walking through a forest with his master. They came upon a small river where a woman was stranded, unable to cross. Tenzin's master offered to carry her across, and she gratefully accepted. Hours later, as they continued their journey, Tenzin could no longer contain his frustration. "Master," he said, "we are monks. We aren't supposed to touch women, yet you carried her." The master smiled and replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story from Buddhism reminds us of the burden of attachment, not just to things, but to our thoughts and emotions. Detachment frees us from carrying unnecessary weight. In Buddhism, detachment doesn't mean withdrawing from the world, but engaging with it without clinging. The Buddha himself said, "You only lose what you cling to." When we learn to let go of our desires and expectations, we can live more peacefully. Here are 6 creative stories from Buddhism that beautifully illustrate the power of detachment and its transformative effect. Story 1. The Parable of the Raft. Imagine crossing a wide, turbulent river using a carefully constructed raft. When you reach the other side, would you carry the raft on your back thinking, "This raft helped me, I must hold on to it forever"? Or would you leave it behind, knowing its purpose has been fulfilled? The Buddha told this story to teach that even the teachings themselves are tools to be used and let go of. Clinging to ideas, beliefs, or even methods of growth can hold us back from evolving. Detachment doesn't mean rejecting the tools we need, it means knowing when to let them go. This applies to our lives today. Think about the habits, routines, or even relationships that may have served a purpose but no longer align with where you're headed. By letting go, you create space for growth. Story 2. The Farmer and His Troubles. A farmer once came to the Buddha complaining about his life. His crops were failing, his family fought constantly, and his neighbors were difficult. But Buddha listened patiently and then said, "I cannot help you solve your 83 problems." The farmer was confused. "Why not?" he asked. The Buddha replied, "Because if I solve these, 83 more will take their place. But I can help you with the 84th problem, your desire to not have problems." This story shows that life will always present challenges. Detachment doesn't eliminate difficulties, it changes how we respond to them. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find your strength." Story 3. The Empty Cup. There was a scholar who visited a Zen master, eager to learn about Buddhism. The master poured tea into the scholar's cup, but he didn't stop when the cup was full. Tea overflowed onto the table and the floor. The scholar exclaimed, "Stop! The cup is full." The master replied, "Like this cup, you are full of your own ideas. How can I teach you unless you first empty your cup?" This story teaches that detachment is about letting go of preconceived notions and ego. When we cling to what we think we know, we block ourselves from learning. Letting go opens the door to wisdom. Story 4. The Bamboo and the Storm. In a fierce storm, the mighty oak tree stood firm, resisting the wind. Eventually, it broke under the pressure. Nearby, a grove of bamboo swayed in the wind, bending but not breaking. When the storm passed, the bamboo stood tall again. This story is a metaphor for the power of flexibility. In life, we often resist change, clinging to what we believe is right or fair. But as the Buddha taught, life is impermanent. Nothing is forever except change. Detachment allows us to bend with the storms of life rather than break under them. Story 5. The Monkey and the Banana Trap. In the jungle, hunters catch monkeys by placing a banana in a narrow jar. The monkey reaches in, grabs the banana, and tries to pull it out. But its clenched fist can't fit through the opening. The monkey is trapped, not by the jar, but by its unwillingness to let go. This story illustrates how our attachments trap us. Whether it's material possessions, grudges, or unrealistic expectations, clinging keeps us stuck. Letting go, on the other hand, sets us free. As the Buddha said, attachment is the root of suffering. And lastly, story 6. The Two Arrows. The Buddha once explained suffering through the analogy of two arrows. The first arrow is the unavoidable pain that life brings: loss, illness, and disappointment. The second arrow is the mental anguish we create by resisting that pain. Why me? This isn't fair. The first arrow is out of our control, but the second arrow is optional. This teaching reminds us that detachment isn't about ignoring pain, but about not adding unnecessary suffering to it. By accepting life's challenges, we free ourselves from the second arrow. Viktor Frankl echoed this when he said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Each of these stories carries a profound truth. Detachment is not about rejecting the world, but about living in it with grace and freedom. By embracing detachment, you'll find yourself less burdened by stress, more present in your relationships, and better equipped to face life's challenges. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: detachment isn't about losing, it's about gaining independence. It's about freeing yourself from the shackles of expectation, stress, and control. As Eckhart Tolle said, sometimes letting go of things is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on. So start small, take a deep breath, practice mindfulness, and let go of one thing that's been weighing you down. Whether it's a toxic relationship, an unachievable expectation, or even just your phone for a few hours. Experience the freedom that comes with releasing it. You might just find that the less you cling, the more life flows your way. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content on philosophy, psychology, spirituality, and conspiracies, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about what detachment means for you. Value learning, keep growing, and success will come. Peace.